Hey, everybody. I'm Captain Tommy Scoville, and you are on the lifeboat. You are on the lifeboat. Okay, peeps. You're probably looking at the thumbnail going, is he going to go off again? So I'll give you a little behind the scenes kind of a thing. I don't work from a script. I've told everybody this, probably 100 times. I don't work from a script. Oftentimes I'll work from bullet points. I'll take some notes, jot them down, whatever. And then I kind of structure the show to pop those as I go down. And it kind of gives you a framework. So even if you do squirrel a little bit, as long as you're hitting the bullet points, you're pretty much getting the show, right? So the only thing worse than not working with a script is if you had bullet points or an outline, and you throw that out about 2 minutes before you go live and then do something completely different, which is exactly what I'm doing right now. You want to talk about going with no net? I'm going to tell you exactly what I was going to do because you may appreciate this and you may appreciate why I bailed on it. I was going to come out today in a tie. Yeah, I was going to come out today wearing a tie. Nobody here on the boat is dead, which is the reason I didn't do it. But one of the things that I want to talk about today, I got a lot of emails from people who really are confused with the last show that I did. So we're going to talk about xylazine and some of the other stuff that's going on, just because obviously I didn't do a very good job. And the questions are so to the left of the mark that it's obvious I really didn't do a good job. And if it was one person that asked, but it's many. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of things, and then I'm going to be going over some other stuff. The reason that I was going to wear a tie, people, let's be really honest. My goal here is to help everybody get off dope and alcohol. That's my goal. Everybody. I want to help everybody get off of drugs and alcohol. Is that realistic? No. Right? No, it's not. But if you want to save 6, you try to save everybody, and then you just might get 6. And 6 is an odd number. Today, I started going through emails and reading text messages, and the people who I am working with fairly intimately, I have 6 of them who are using Fent every single day. Every day. They've hung through all of the shows I do. They know exactly what's going on out there. And each have given their own litany of reasons as to why. And I'm not saying anyone's name. I'm not putting anybody on blast. But they have their own reasons on why they're, and it's repetitious. You hear the same thing over and over again. I really know the guy I'm getting it from. Man, I do such small quantities that if anything happened, I'd probably have time to Narcan myself. Honestly, I've heard that one many times. And I got news for you. It's probably not the case, especially with the stuff that these guys have been pumping out lately. It drops people where they're sitting. And I was going to come out in the tie and say, the last 2 funerals, for all intents and purposes, I did on this show, within 20 minutes, people were reaching out to me, even the family members, to say, you know how much so-and-so would have loved that? Do you know how much so-and-so would have loved that? So I was going to come out and do it for those people that are staying in the game. Because you can bet that the next time I put that tie on, it's going to be for one of them. It's crappy, right? But it's a stone cold fact. We're talking about a poison that's killing people. And now they're mixing that poison with a deadlier poison. So let's talk about xylazine. The question I keep getting asked is this like nits, like nitazines? Nitazines is an opiate. It is a bathtub opiate. In other words, it is to painkillers what crystal meth is to amphetamines. Anybody with a little bit of ingenuity and a recipe can put this stuff together in their garage. That's nits, okay? And it's about 50 times stronger than fentanyl. Xylazine is a benzodiazepine, and it is an analog of clonidine, the stuff that Klonopin comes from. So it is a very heavy-duty benzodiazepine. If you are not familiar with benzodiazepines, they're tranquilizers. Honestly, that's what they were made to do, right? To make people tranquil. It helps people who have anxiety disorders. It helps people who are really, really stressed out. usually it feels like the buzz equivalent of having a couple of beers. Honestly, it's not much, a feeling much stronger than that. But this stuff's made to knock out a horse. It's almost funny saying that, isn't it? Wow, that stuff's so strong it could knock out a horse. No, this was made to knock out horses. This xylazine is a benzodiazepine made for horses and cattle. I assure you it was never meant to be put into the human body, especially the vein. Right? This is not a drug that was supposed to be put intravenous. This is a drug that was designed to go intramuscular. And it was designed to go intramuscular on an animal that has 4,000 pounds, 3,000 pounds, whatever, worth of beef to jab a needle into. The reason that this stuff is rotting people's skin off is because it just was not designed to ever end up in the subcutaneous layer of a human being. Once it gets underneath, the epidermis and it gets into that sponge, it just starts the immediate eating away of flesh. And it looks like a flesh-eating disorder. If you guys have seen any of the images, I can't bring myself to show them here. I almost put a thumbnail together, but it's just so horrendous. I've told the story before about a guy that my brother and I knew really well that just was missing huge chunks of his arm from, I don't know what they were cutting stuff with back then, but he had, and it was rare. We'd never seen anything like it. Now, apparently, half of Kensington Street in Philadelphia looks like that. In my last video, I said that better than 90%, I was told there'd be no math, but I'm pretty sure that's 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 times when they get a drug seizure of any kind of street dope, it's cut with xylazine. Now, why? Why would you cut something with something that it can't be treated with Narcan, right? You're going to kill more clients. Now, if you want to take the conspiracy or say that I'm a conspiracy guy, you can do that. I think this stuff is being pumped in from the beast from the east, and I think that there's multiple players at hand. My opinion. No fake news, right? My opinion. My opinion is that they're pretty happy with how this is going down. Sad, but that is the truth. I don't think they care. It just doesn't make any sense. If they cared, they would at least discuss the problem. But it's not even part of their platform. But that's beside the point. The other thing is, let's say that you don't buy into any kind of conspiracy thing, and you say the reason they're doing this is because they want to make the product so cheap that anybody can buy it. That's the only other reason that I could possibly come up with that they're doing this. Because according to the research I did on Kensington, dope is sold very often by the point, right? So like 0.10 of a gram, or as you progressively go up. So there's 10 points in a gram. And that's usually how those injectable stuff gets sold. Little balloons, and they're points, 1 point, 2 points. They're $2 a point. They're $2 for a fix that can kill you. $2. I'm telling you, people. So when I talk to you and I come here and I say, I had a $700 a day dope habit. Not at these prices, I didn't. I mean, it wouldn't have been anywhere close. They're making this damn near affordable. It's crazy, right? But they literally are making this damn near affordable. $2 for a fix. And by the way, if you buy 10 of them, it's $15. So this garbage is $15 a gram. And trust and believe that people from all over the country are heading to Kensington, picking this stuff up, repackaging it, and driving back to a neighborhood near you. Because if you can go out there, if you can buy it on the street at $15 a gram, what do you think they're getting it from a dealer? Right? How cheap is this? Did you see the thumbnail? Look at the size of that drug bust. I mean, I'm laughing because if I wasn't, I'd be crying. It's such a small dent in the bucket. It really is. It's not much getting caught, people. It really isn't. But at least none of those pills are going to be killing anybody. And there's 30 million deadly doses in that picture. 30 million. So enough to kill 10% of the country in one by, relatively, by the standards of the Border Patrol. This wasn't even a huge, massive bust. It's not one of the biggest ones ever or anything like that, but it's I mean, it's just certainly enough to kill a lot of people. Okay, people. So, everybody clear on xylazine? Everybody clear on where this stuff is, what we're talking about here? Because this is coming to a city near you. One of the reasons that I was so terrified the other night talking about this stuff. Why am I so beside myself because of xylazine? Well, Narcan doesn't work on it, right? So people who think they're doing opiates. Friend falls out on the ground. They take out their Narcan thinking they're going to bring the guy back. It's not going to happen. The Narcan doesn't work on the benzo. Also, how many times have you heard my bobble-headed partner and I on the boat say, look, if you're quitting benzos, whatever you do, don't quit cold turkey. Whatever you do not quit cold turkey. Why? Because it's very likely to cause you to have seizures. And I don't mean like flopping around on the floor seizures. I mean the kind that kill you. Like your body seizes up and that's the end of it. So a person that goes out and, thinks they're banging fent or tar or whatever they think they're doing, and they're putting that stuff in their body for a week or 2 or 3, and now you run out of money. Instead of just getting dope sick, you stand a really good chance of seizing up. We keep hearing all of these reports about homeless people and, dead on the side of the road. These people are dead. And then when they go and they do some kind of autopsy, they say, yeah, the guy was on dope, but there wasn't enough of it in it to kill him. Well, no, there wouldn't be, would there? See, he was withdrawing when he dropped dead. This insidious crap is now being pressed into pills that resemble a whole host of things that all of us abused at one time or another. Sadly, that's the truth. Ritalin, Adderall, Dexedrine, Dizoxin. Then, all of the stimulants are basically covered. If you're buying blow, they're putting it in that. They're even putting this stuff in crack, which is absolutely mind-bending to me. But they are. This is a golden opportunity for them to really stretch out their dope for very little money. This is a really, really cheap drug. A cheap drug which recently a guy got pulled over and had about a duffel bag full of it in powdered form. He was on a freeway. He was let go, and they gave him back the powder. How's that? Because we don't have a law in this country that makes xylazine illegal. It's not a controlled substance. It's not on the books anywhere. You can ride around with that poison and make drops at all of the dope houses in town with no fear at all of the law. We might want to talk to our elected officials and tell them that it might be a really good idea if they stop picking one drug at a time and trying to outlaw that drug and say methyl-based drugs, all illegal. Anything that works on the MU2 receptor, illegal, right? Just go right down the line. There's no reason. And the analogs of any of it. The analogs of any of it. Does that mean that the stuff isn't going to get into here? Does it mean that there's not going to be a drug market? No, it doesn't. Doesn't mean that at all. There's always going to be a black market for drugs. Always. Always. I would just feel a whole lot better if a 14-year-old couldn't buy it online. Gets his first job and his first credit card, and he's good to go. There's nobody checking IDs. There's nobody doing anything. I would just like it if the average John Q. Public doesn't have the ability to pull the trigger on this stuff at will, and then try to jump into the game, because that's what's happening. These people are hopping into the drug game with absolutely no knowledge of what they're doing, and you have a bag this big that if you want to not make deadly, you're going to have to cut it into a bag about the size of this room. That's a very difficult proposition. You understand? This is by far the least favorite subject that I could talk about. It really is. This is the least favorite subject that I can talk about. But it has to be done. It really does. It has to be done. And right before I led into this, I talked about, individuals who are hearing the sound of my voice who are still doing fent. Either I really suck at this, or, it doesn't matter what the message is. And I can understand completely. I really can. I I was a really deep addict, right? I did a lot of heroin, and nothing anybody would have said would have gotten me off of that thing. They wouldn't have. I mean, not some YouTuber I'd never met. There's no chance in hell. But you know what? Of the 6, it's 2 and 3, guys and women. And all but one have families, kids, husbands, wives. I can see saying, Tommy's an idiot. I don't much care what Tommy says anyway. But I don't know how you look at your family, right? Knowing that every single time you get high, you're just going, okay, whew, thank God, got through another one. The day is coming where that's not going to happen. Sadly, I will be putting on a tie. If you were wondering how that's going to look, I'm going to come out here and I'm going to wring my hands. And I'm going to say, you know what? Honestly, I tried. I did everything I could to reach out to that person. And then I'm going to kick the crap out of myself for probably about a week or 2. I'll start going back through text messages that I've had with you. And I'll start reading them and I'll go, right there. That was the opportunity. Right there, I should have said this. That's what I'll do. Everybody here will be bummed out. You know, even if they didn't know you well, even if they don't recognize your name, because if you were you, don't even comment. Right? Ever. But they'll be bummed out because we are all in this boat together. We really are. So they'll bum out. I doubt too many of them are going to blame themselves. I will. And logically, I know it's not my fault. I know that. Intellectually, it's not my fault. It's the individual's fault. 100%. You know, that's responsibility. That's how that works. But my soul, my emotions, right? My heart doesn't do so well with that. There's really not much worse than that feeling. And you know what, people, it's coming. It's coming. You know, and sadly, I mean, this stuff, it gets a hold of people and it doesn't let go. And you wouldn't believe the effort I've put into some of these. Like, I got individuals who I have gone and seen in person. A lot of things that we've really run the gamut with a lot of these people, and I get it. I'm not mad at you. I'm really not. I really do. I get it because this is what happens with opiates. This is what it makes you do. At least you're not robbing banks, right? I went even farther than that. But the dope I did wasn't deadly. Once every 5 months, somebody would end up overdosing, and it was such a shocker. We'd be like, holy crap, somebody overdosed. Now it's the norm. It's an everyday thing. Now what you're starting to hear all of the time are stories of a parent that loses 2 kids in one night. They're not even together. These are terrifying stories. And I'm not going to do this all night. I'm not going to sit here and hang crepe. I'm really not. I'm going to move on from this story. But everybody just pray for the people that are still in the game. You don't need to know their names. Trust and believe God knows who they are. But pray for the people who are still in the game. And just as importantly, or more importantly, pray for their families. Because today in the U.S., somewhere between 400 and 500 people took their last breath because of this crap. And that means that, parents or, kids, because you don't know, these people could be the parents of somebody, or they could be, the children of somebody, still living at home. There's a lot of them, that adds up over the course of a week. We have now surpassed the death toll of every single war that we have ever had as Americans. This stuff's killed more than that. What's the biggest problem in our country today? But people owning handguns. No question. Right? Okay, so this week on the morning show, we've been talking an awful lot about relapse prevention. We've been talking an awful lot about sort of the nuts and bolts stuff of the lifeboat. And hold on one second. Yeah, Johnny says vote intelligently. You know what? Here's the thing. You know what? Vote proud. Get in there and say, what are you going to do about the opiate epidemic? Because this is what I'm really worried about. What are you going to do about dope in this country? Because I feel like that is the war that's going to destroy us. And if they say, well, we need to take care of this stuff at home with all of these people who have AR-13s in their closets, I don't know that I'd vote for them. But that's me. You do whatever you want, but that's me. Sorry, I had to check this. Stand for truth. I really appreciate the honesty that it takes to come here in a place like this and say that. Nobody here saw you. Nobody here has any clue that you did that. You could have pulled the wool over our eyes. No one was ever going to know. But you show up at a virtual sobriety meeting and confess that a week ago you used. That to me is still the most shocking thing about the lifeboat. And every single time it happens, without fail, it shocks me. It absolutely shocks me. Because, I don't know, I guess because of such the liar I was. I never came clean on anything. I was just a terrible person that way. Even if you caught me red-handed with the thing in my hand, I'm not even trying to be funny. That's who I was. I just was never going to admit anything. And it's pretty crappy, but that was who I am. But I'm so impressed with that. That is the basis of all growth. It really is. I've said many times that lies are the fruit of addiction. But truth, make no mistake, truth is the fruit of a new life. I'm so impressed with that. And it's again, every single thing we do is a fine line. I don't like beating people up for relapses. I really don't. It doesn't seem to do any good. And we've all been there. When you relapse, what do you want? You want someone to help you up. You don't want somebody to knock you down. Hell, you're already down. If I had to guess, I'd say you've been kicking the hell out of yourself since last Sunday. Probably right? Okay. All you got to do, dust yourself off and start the process again. However, what I mean by a fine line is it gets really easy to get to a point where you feel like a person just gets into this cycle where it's like, this is part of the process, so I'm just going to relapse. Part of the process, I'm going to get drunk. It's St. Patrick's Day. This is just part of the process. I've been through that with some people, where they get into this rut where they're not even trying to stay sober. But they're pulling off 4 and 5 days at a time, sometimes 8 days at a time. And then, of course, they'll just dive right into it and, and then say, relapse is part of the whole process. I thought about vodka today, said M. Hunt, but you didn't drink it, correct? I'm impressed, my friend. And you know how I know you didn't drink it? Because you would have reached out to me if you were going to, and I would have heard the phone ring. People, I realize that there's probably not one person on the lifeboat who does not know about the My Bobbleheaded Partners channel. The vast majority of you came from that channel, right? Wages World. But Mark is making videos again, and he made a damn good one last night. He's very much looking and sounding a lot like Mark. You know what I mean? So whatever he's been going through, he's definitely working through it, and he seems to be doing really, really well. Shatsy, pray for my kids. Absolutely. And if you would like to drop me an email at sober@myyahoo.com, sober@myyahoo.com, I would love to talk to you about your kids. I really would. That's my heart lays with that subject, and I would love to talk to you about that. I really would. So please feel free. Just all you got to do is reach out and say what your name is on this platform and drop a phone number. Yeah, I like the name too. We can do better on the like button. Seventh Son. Thank you, my friend. And you know what? He's absolutely right. We really could be beating the hell out of that like button. That would make me happy. And it would make the algorithm happy. Last night, we picked up a whole bunch of subscribers. And I think that a a lot of that probably had to do with a super chat that was put up yesterday over on one of the other channels. It was Alaska Prepper. And, it's Hope, went and put up a really nice message about the lifeboat, and it absolutely translated down. You all are all great. Blessings to me. Melissa Johns, I'm glad that you're here. Sorry I was late. Greetings to all. Yeah, you are late, so you have to stay afterwards, right on the board, that kind of thing. So, as I was saying, we were doing nuts and bolts stuff. And one of the reasons is we've reached a growth spurt. We're at a place right now where a lot of the people who are showing up here, never saw any of the early videos. They may go back and pick one or two. It's going to leave them, the sad thing is that if you've been on the boat the entire time, you have a really good idea of who I am. I get these emails from people who, honestly, I got an email from somebody the other day who asked me where I got my PhD. And I had to explain to him that, it's not that kind of a education. What do we have here? I need to talk to you. I quit every drug at once, but picked up one this week, and I really am stuck in fear. And no one in my family understands. Well, reach out to me. Send me an email. You can do it before the show ends, right? Send me an email to sober, SOBER, at myyahoo.com. Sober at myyahoo.com. And when this show is over, hey, Lizette, good to see you. Lizette is my friend from Florida. It's really good to see you, Lizette. I was thinking of you today, actually. And if I just found the channel yesterday and it's great. That's a nice thing to say. I really appreciate that. Right? Clean erasers. Oof, you are old. You are old, Schrodinger squirrel. Of course, I used to do that too. So, as I was saying, we had a lot of new people, right? I didn't set that up, by the way. It just happened to work that way. And quite often, these people aren't going to go back and catch all of the early shows. And there is a bunch of misconceptions about me. And there's also a bunch of misconceptions about how we do what we do here. So, we're probably going to be revisiting some of the tenets, the basic tenets of the lifeboat, probably for the next little bit. I would encourage everybody to go back and at least catch 2 or 3 of the early videos. I'm not saying you should do that so that I can get views, but just so that I don't have to do a show where I tell everybody my story. Because I've told my story. It has been told, hashed, rehashed, beat to death, and it's out there in its first, fresh, man, no one's heard this yet kind of form on some of the early videos. And how this all came to be, how it got named, right? All of that is there. It's intense. Yeah, you know what? It really was. It's a good way to understand the boat, says 11 Pagan 11, and she's right. She is absolutely right on that. Perhaps post a link to those videos in the pinned comment. You assume that I know what I'm doing on YouTube. Just because you know what you're doing doesn't mean I know what I'm doing. But, Mark handled all kinds of thinking. I didn't do any of that. Hello, everyone. Y'all seem so great. I'm blessed to have found y'all. John Pounders on NYSTV mentioned this channel. I don't know who that is, but I'm so glad that he did. That's awesome. It really is. That's awesome. So, the basic tenets of the lifeboat. There are about 25 gazillion ways to get sober. The lifeboat, contrary to popular belief, is not an anti-drug channel. It is an anti-addiction channel, and it is an anti-death channel. If people were out doing the dope that was around in the 80s, I would be doing everything in my power to help people who were addicted to that substance, whatever that substance happened to be. The reason I rail against the stuff now is it's not intended to get you high. It's intended to kill you. plain and simple. I mean, the fact that you can get it at $15 a gram should tell you an awful lot. Really an awful lot. But as far as sobriety goes, how you get there, if you believe in the 10 steps, I mean the 12-step program, or you write your own, or you do whatever, I got sober on 3 steps. The 3 steps were all that it took for me to stop using the substance. That was not the end of the road, by the way. That was the beginning of the rest of the process. Since then, it has just been self-exploration and trying to figure out how I could live, this and get through this life happy without having to have a crutch, one that I had used for 30 years. Anti-death channel. The fact that we need one of these in 2023 says a lot about the internet. It really does, M. Hunt. Well said. Well said. Now you see TV is a great Bible teaching channel. One of the other things, chemical warfare. Schwertzer Squirrel nailed it. That really is exactly what's going on. In our humble opinion, this is chemical warfare. And the reason that I would say that is, I remember when I was in the life, I remember dope dealers handing me a bag and going, hey, no one's tested this yet, brother. You know what I mean? Be careful. I haven't been able to give this to anybody yet. This just came up from south of the border, and it has not been tested. So you really, really got to be careful. And I would say, thanks, I appreciate that. On another occasion, the guy said, I will pay you to come and test it. And I went and he put out different stuff, and I tried each one and said, I think that one right there is the best, and that's the kind that he bought. But what we have today is just a completely different thing. It's not showing up here done. It's showing up here ready to cut. And in some cases, it's showing up here in liquid form. So back to, I'll squirrel a little bit here, just a teeny bit. The 3 steps were really basic for me. The first step was make a list of every single reason that you want to get sober. I am of the firm belief that when you first are hitting rock bottom, when that window of opportunity opens, that you are actually ready to say, I don't want to do this anymore. That window does not stay open very long. And it's sometimes daunting to think, I've got this process of 12 steps. Look, just do this one step. Make me a list of all the reasons. Because right now you don't want to use. Make me a list of all the reasons that you don't want to use. When you're at rock bottom, you don't give a crap about yourself anymore. Yeah, I waved bye-bye a long time ago. Our pride, all of those things that define somebody when things are good were gone long ago. The drugs killed them. At least put them deeply unconscious. That part of our psyche is just beat on. So these people who say, you got to do it for you. I don't know, man. I've never met anybody that was ready to do it for them. Honestly, I never have. Now, that's the only thing that's going to keep you sober. But to get off of that crap, to get that stuff out of your bloodstream, that first 72 hours, right? That really is the time where any reason whatsoever, I don't care what your reason is. For me, it was my daughter. I was incarcerated, and I did not want to bring any more pain to my dad. He was high on the list, and I did not want to die. I did not want him to pass away while I was in prison. It was my biggest fear on this planet. Unfortunately, that did not happen. But I wanted him to see me sober. And that was so high on my list. And you know what? Those things do keep you from using. Right? I wouldn't have. If the first page said, you're doing this for you, I don't know that I would have hung in there for me. But for my daughter and for my dad and my family and all of the people that never turned their back on me and all the people that truthfully loved me in spite of the fact that I was a stone cold dirtbag. Yeah. So I made that first list. And then Q, who was my mentor, still is, said to me on the second page, Angel Wings, wow, just gifted 5 lifeboat memberships. And I believe I saw that Miss V gifted 3. You guys are awesome. Really awesome. I'm blown away. And that money goes to help people get off dope, which is really great. It really is. That's awesome. So the second page, he said to me, I want you to write down a description of who you are. Thank you so much, Prankster. And I love that name. I love that name. He said, I want you to write down a description of who you are. And I'm like, oh, that's easy. And he's like, whoa. Told by your friends. If you weren't there, And they could say whatever they wanted about Tommy, knowing I'm never going to hear it, right? I'm never going to hear one word of it. What would my friends say about me? That was a really fun exercise, right? Because you come to the realization that, you know what? They would call me a thief. They would call me a liar. They would say I'm unreliable. They would say that I would steal from them if it meant, being sick or not being sick. Leisure, good to see you. Oh, we're here for a love bomb. So Wages was live. I did not even know that. I truthfully did not know that. I was just talking about him too. Mark, we love you, bud. Thank you so much. Woo! Thanks for the membership, London Johnson. Don't thank me. That would have been, any number of about 3 people, because they've been giving memberships out tonight like they are cotton candy. My crew. Man, y'all are beautiful, says Buddha, and I'm going to go with that. I really do feel that this really is a beautiful crowd. So, write down who you are. Not according to you, but your friends. If your friends were to describe who you are, right? Without you there, what would they say? And what's funny is I went back to Q. It probably took about 20 minutes, right? And I filled it out, and I went walking up with a notebook that looked exactly like this, one of these numbers, because that's what I've always done my journaling and everything in. And I walked up and said, here you go. And he's like, what the hell is this? I said, that's the assignment. He's like, dude, that assignment should take you 2 or 3 days. And it did. I went back and really broke down everything. And I'll tell you something. By the time I was done filling that paper out, I was at the lowest point I had ever been in my life. I was miserable. I was ashamed. Mark Wages, love you, brother. Appreciate you. I was absolutely ashamed. CK, gifted a membership as well. Goodness gracious. You guys are awesome. And at my lowest point ever. Q in his wisdom, or whoever taught him the process, came in and said, now, let's figure out who the new you is going to be. Because on page 3, you're going to design what you wish all of them said about you. You are going to design the new you. And I'm not kidding you, people. Look, I was a bank robber. I robbed banks. I was in prison when I was making out these pieces of paper. I had basically thrown out my life. I had done every single thing wrong that you could do, including turning my back on my Lord and Savior. Every single thing that I could do wrong, I did. And I dragged a bunch of really good people down with me. But I had the opportunity to say, this is it. This is who I want to be. And it started out with honesty. I want people to say, you know what? If that dude says it, it's true. He wouldn't lie to anybody. That was the first thing I put down. And then I went from there, and it got very, very personal. And I was able to design what I call page 3 Tommy, right? Page 2 Tommy was a dirtbag, but that is who I was. And then you start to work through this entire concept of what it means to be a drug addict or an addict in general, right? It doesn't have to be drugs. It could be anything. You realize that right now, the biggest addiction on the planet is your phone. Social media right now is growing faster as an addiction than anything else on earth. That's a fact. And if you say, well, you know what, I use it a lot, but it's not an addiction, then you really haven't done any kind of studying into this thing. The likes, right? The shares, the comments being left. Everything in this was designed by people to give you a hit of dopamine. And I'm quoting them. That literally came out of a boardroom in Silicon Valley when they were putting together these things. The very first interactive social media. They said, you know what? The likes, all of that's going to be just like a gambler sitting in a machine waiting to see the next turn of the slots. It's going to be the same thing, right? That anticipation. And then when they see it, they're going to get a small hit of dopamine. And this will ensure that they just keep coming back and coming back and coming back. And it works like hell, doesn't it? Trish Killian, thank you so much. I appreciate you. I don't know that there's going to be anybody that doesn't have a membership by the time we leave here tonight. Walk around a mall, you'll see 90% of people looking at their phone. Absolute stone cold fact. Or walking into something, right? You can watch days worth of videos. I'm sorry. Yeah, you can watch days worth of videos of people walking into the street, getting hit by taxi cabs, walking off the side of decks and everything else, because this is doing the exact same thing for your brain that cocaine is. No joke. In fact, in studies, the 2 things that they say this mimics absolutely the most is cocaine and gambling. And we voluntarily carry it with us every single place we go. When we lay down in bed at night, we take it with us. It is the last thing we look at before we go to bed. And it is the first thing we look at when we get up in the morning, right? You want to change your life in really small ways. I beat the drum constantly about you got to make your bed in the morning. You get up in the morning, make your bed. If you don't, you're not going to get anywhere. You are not going to get to where you want to be in life. Kick the sheets all over the place. Leave them like that. I promise you, it may seem really insignificant, but it starts the day saying, you know what? I'm not a drug addict anymore. The drug addict would not have made this bed, so I'm going to. And that literally is how I've lived my life since getting sober. If the drug addicted Tommy was going to do it, I'm not. And if the drug addicted Tommy did it, there's no chance I'm ever going to do it again. And vice versa. You know, that is how I sort of built the entire life. But you start with making the bed, right? I got a great idea. When you go to plug your phone in tonight and charge it, plug it in downstairs. If you sleep upstairs, plug your phone in downstairs. You're not going to roll over in the middle of the night just to check it. You're not going to do any of those things. It will not be the first thing you see when you wake up in the morning. And take 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and call it absolute, technology death half hour or hour. And you know something? It's a great way to really get an idea of just how hooked on the thing you are. You ever seen the people when you land an airplane, right? Now they're not such Nazis about, but they used to say, whatever you do, do not turn on your cell phone until we are done taxiing. And every single person in the plane was turning the thing on, and you could just see the glow coming up from every single. And I understand people want to call and tell people they're there, whatever, but there is an addiction to this thing like you wouldn't believe. Sadly, we addict very, very small children. We give these things to kids now when they are younger than 11. And you know what happens when you give somebody something like this at the age of 8 or 9 or 10? You start to program their brain for what it feels like to get a hit of dopamine, wait. Get a hit of dopamine, wait. Get a hit of dopamine. Honestly, and it is really a dangerous thing because the first time that they do drugs of any kind, they're going to go, oh, I remember this, only this is way stronger, but this is just like that feeling, and I don't remember where that feeling was, but I remember it. And I work underground. They can track vehicles too. That would not surprise me in the slightest. Greatest addiction in the world, mobile phones / devices. Inconvenient truth. You're absolutely right. That's John. John, you are absolutely right. There is no bigger addiction. And the only country that I've seen that has stepped up to the plate and said, no, that's a stone cold fact, is South Korea. South Korea has listed it as their number one health problem in the entire country. And they're doing something about it. They're having education campaigns and all of this. But if you've got kids and you're allowing them to plug into TikTok, because it's just cool little dance videos, it is the most advanced artificial intelligence system on the planet that literally is figuring out how long they can keep your kid on between hits of dopamine. So if your kid is just doing the normal surfing, right? And they were the first that could surf up and down and sideways, double the action. May sound really small, but from the drug game, that's crack compared to cocaine, right? That's the strongest of it because now they can go in every direction. And they built a platform where it doesn't take much to get 1 million views, and they get addicted to this stuff really, really quickly because it's designed that way. And if they put the phone down, boredom kicks in. And it kicked in at 31 minutes and 20 seconds. The next time they use that phone, the AI is going to back off 1.5 minutes before it gives them exactly what it wants. That video that they know is the one that the kid's looking for. That AI ain't no joke. It really isn't. This is one of the most dangerous things in the world. And what we're doing is building the next generation of drug addicts. They just didn't try to drug yet. But drugs are just a switch that throws the dopamine receptors in our body to do what they do. Right? You can get the same result from a phone, a video game, gambling, sex. Right? You can be addicted to so many food, huge addictions, sugar. That said, people, once you start going down the road of this addiction, and once it's something that you get accustomed to, you're far more likely to pick up another one. I'm sorry, peeps. Squirrel nut zipper is, there you go. Sorry, cat trouble. Cat trouble. I built a fire on the river, listened to music on YouTube. So, if you don't believe that TikTok is a problem, if you don't think it's a danger to your kid, I got the TikTok challenge. You want a good one? Go on there and make a straw account. Make a fake one. And have it be a 13 or a 14-year-old girl or boy. And then just watch what this artificial intelligence thinks your kid should be looking at. It will absolutely blow your mind. It will take your head in directions that you did not think were possible. I promise you, it will scare the hell out of you. And it might just make you pump the brakes, right? It might make you yank this thing out of your kid's hands. Now, I'll tell you something. This is also the greatest education device on the planet, right? My bobble-headed partner, Mark Wages, when Mark starts to talk about space weather, to say that it goes over my head does not do any justice. The amount of brain damage that I did over the course of my life, when Mark starts talking about that stuff, it's going, half a mile over my head. And that device, I can plug in and start Googling just the terms that he says, and start in seconds. When we were kids, there was just a completely different world that we lived in. This millennial generation, I don't think people realize the absolute shocker that this generation is living through. When we were kids, we would argue. You remember arguments? We would argue over who was right about something. Who pitched the winning game in the 1976 World Series? And everybody would weigh in and start arguing. No, it was this person, it was that person. Now you go, Siri, who won the... And all of that happened in one generation. Every single change happened in one generation. And sadly, they know exactly what they're doing. TikTok is the largest propaganda machine on the planet, and it is actively targeting your children, or grandchildren. When their version of TikTok plays in their home country, it's teaching people calculus. Yes, we are dummies. We're replaced by cell phones, mobile phones, and devices. Being a responsible parent isn't trying to distract your children, but engaging them before the behavior. Now, you know something? Not just your opinion, John. That's solid as hell. It really is. I couldn't agree with that more if I had to. Jay Meyer says, when I was a teenager in high school, I was doing computer programming. I had an idea of what the future looked like. But now, boy, that jumped up quick. But now that I had an idea of what the future would look like. But now that it's the future, I had no idea it would look like this. I don't know that anyone did. I really believe that. They hardly had a chance. Dopamine and propaganda. My ex got our 10-year-old a phone. Oh, when he's here, we go outside. That's the spirit. You know what? You remember that? Hey, when the street lights come on, you got to be home. You can go this far. Don't go off the property. Or you can't go past this, this light or whatever. TikTok destroys our kids' self-esteem. Absolutely it does. Our children have never had higher instances of depression, teenage depression, and making the final, decision, making a permanent solution to a part-time problem by removing themselves off of the planet. If you use the S word, they just bury your video. Mitchell Watson, how you doing, my brother? Long time no see. Self-delete, that's great. I have not heard that, Parab, but I like it. Stephanie Munoz, good to see you. Glad that you're here. Linda Jones, oh yes, I remember that. You better be home before the street lights come on. Yeah, and so when the United States government says we're not going to allow TikTok into any single phone of anybody that works for the government in any one of our facilities, why would you stop there? If you know what this thing is capable of, if you realize that it is spying on every single person that uses it, you talk about leverage. People, I don't know about your childhood, but if my teens had been recorded on one of these, that literally sends ice shivers down my spine. It really does. In 10 or 15 years, when people are running for president, The beast from the east is going to have dirt on virtually every single person in this country. I mean, what percentage of kids aren't using TikTok? I would like to hope everybody on this channel right now, but the vast majority of them are. Spanx Calhoun. Somehow we have also lost our spines. I worry about my generation and those after me. I agree. There really is something to that. You know, you've heard the term the greatest generation. Have you ever wondered why they call that generation the greatest generation? People often say, well, because they defeated the Nazis. They saved the planet. Big doings. There's no question. But that generation came around in about 1910, which means when they were barely out of first grade, World War I came. Then they went through the Depression, right around the time they actually started making a living. Like they were going to work and actually making money. The Great Depression comes. They lived through that. Then, as they're starting to get into that period of time where they're going to be having their own kids, World War II. What this generation, the greatest generation, lived through. I mean, honestly, life-changing stuff. And they rose to every single occasion. I'd like to believe that Americans still have that in them. I don't dislike our country. I am not really fond of our government. And the reasons that I'm not are really just basic and self-evident. They really are. I have said this on the channel the other day, but we have two parties. And both were asked the other day. They asked the head, like the mouthpiece for both parties, what do you think is the number one problem in our country? One party said guns, and the other party said drug overdoses, which right now kill more people than guns. More people will die of opioid overdoses in the next 21 days than will die of guns all year. Fact. It is the number one cause of death in our country. It is causing our life expectancy to drop. Last year was 110,000 people. It could double that this year. It really could. We're off to one hell of a start, unfortunately. I was raised by the silent generation, went through that depression. I'm conditioned to save everything. I hear that from a lot of people. Those that survived the Great Depression didn't throw anything out. They were tough, they were smart, and they were disciplined. Schrodinger's squirrel pretty much nailed that. You know what else? There was a love of country that we were taught at a very young age. Do you remember standing up next to your desk and doing the Pledge of Allegiance? Right? Saluting the flag, right, from your desk. There was a level of respect that was taught to everybody. Didn't matter what you were doing. Your parents taught it. They taught it at school. There was just a level of respect. Now, this is what is teaching our kids. We have handed our children's brains to our enemies. Think about that. I'm not making this bigger than it is. We handed our children over to our enemies. Here you go, program them. Though, you can have them, 6, 8 hours a day? How long do you need them? 6 hours good enough? Okay. I'll buy him a phone. I'll let him go to his room, and I'll get you 6 hours a day. Let's see how it works out. Can you imagine this young generation storming the beaches of Normandy? Lord have mercy. Well, I can make it a little easier for you. There was a survey done. They talked to millennials, and they asked, I don't remember what the sample size was, but in this study, they said, if America were attacked, would you be willing to fight? Not if we went to war in another country. If they came here, right? If they attacked us on our soil, would you be willing to fight? And 43% said they would. Can you wrap your dome around that? You telling me that anybody listening to this channel right now, because the demographics here on the lifeboat, you all are closer to my age than you are millennials. But do you think that if they had asked that in the 80s, that it wouldn't have been 100%? There might have been one or two people that said, you know what, my religion makes it so that I can't do that, or, I just couldn't possibly. But the rest of them, every single one of them would be ready to roll. They'd be ready to roll, Unfortunately, people think I'm a nut. The tinfoil hat jokes and all of that. Make yourself a sock account. Same age as your kid. Right? Give it a fake name, all of it. Make an account and watch what they tell you. You'll begin to hate this country. They'll tell you that we can't stand the other races. right? They'll tell you that they literally will find divisions in every single thing they can do. Their goal is to divide America so that we hate each other. Why would they have to fire a weapon? Well, they'll just give us all kinds of dope, get everybody in the country strung out, and then let them destroy themselves. When that's said and done, they'll come walking in and sweep up. Sadly, that's where we're at. I'm not making this bigger than it is, people. God, I wish I was. I can't say anything bad about millennials. I know too many who are amazing and already fought in a couple of wars. Rebecca, there are exceptions in every rule. I'm not bad-mouthing millennials. I'm saying that 43% in a study that you can look up online said they would not fight. I'm referring to the patriotism starting to wane in a very big way based on this. There's a lot of cool things you can say about millennials. First of all, they're the best read generation on the planet, ever. That's a shocker, right? The average millennial has read Harry Potter, the entire thing. That's 2 or 3 War and Pieces. You know, they're a group of kids that really read an awful lot. There are a lot of good things that you can say about them. Sadly, Wolverines. I was waiting for somebody to make a Red Dawn. Higher than I would have expected, says Spanx Calhoun. I think studies are skewed, but I hear you. Well, 75% of all statistics are made up on the spot. Well, you know something? They can skew studies. They absolutely can. But if you look at stuff online, and millennials are a small part of everything we're talking about. Sadly, Generation Z and all of these other generations, the Coca-Cola generation, whatever. Hey, Wharton, good to see you. They all get lumped into this one category as millennials, which isn't fair at all because it really is just that one, what is it, 10 years, 12 years, something like that makes up who you are. You are absolutely right with the cell phones and young kids. Internet needs to go even for adults. It could be the greatest tool in the world, or it could be the worst enemy in the world. It really comes. I view it a lot like opiates. If you break your back, there's nothing in the world like an opiate. It literally is going to take the pain away. It's going to make it so that you don't go insane from the amount of pain that is going to be coursing through your body. Right? That's awesome. That's one of the greatest discoveries ever. It allows surgery and all kinds of other things to happen. But I got a hold of it and robbed banks. There are people who use this to study. There are people who use this to expand their minds, to learn about other cultures, all kinds of things that are going to make them a better human being. And then there are people that, spend 5 hours a day looking at porn. Or there are people who, who allow other countries to just really beat into their head the fact that our country is a bad one, because that is happening. Sorry, my nose is running like a faucet. This season and this, I'm cold. It reminds me of a story about a Chinese man and his son breaking his leg. Yes, I know the story. But his son needed to go to war and he breaks the leg so he won't have to. Way more interesting than War and Peace, sadly. Oh, no question. And you don't have to take notes to remember all the names. You know what I mean? I found that War and Peace was really, really difficult to keep track of all the characters. We found out what they wanted to tell us on TV, and we read a lot more. Ruth, absolutely. I think that, we didn't have as much stuff to play with, that high-tech stuff to play with. Drifter212, that is a really cool thing to say, man. You just made my night. And you don't want to leave, because if this is your first time on the lifeboat, this ends a little different than your average live feed. This channel is just Wages? No. Wages is my bobble-headed partner who owns Wages World, and he is a partner with me on the lifeboat. I'm Tommy. I read Harry Potter in the 7th grade. Oh my goodness. Well, you are considerably younger than I had guessed. Stand for truth. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you coming here and talking about last Sunday. I'm proud of you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. That's what it means to be accountable, and that's what it means, to knowing full well nobody can see you. To come here and admit your faults is a beautiful thing. It really is. It's a beautiful thing. And it's the building block. It's where you start to go right from that point on. I've recommended your channel to multiple people. I'm hoping they're checking you out. Rebecca, what a very cool thing. Thank you so much. Uh-oh. You know what, peeps? It's the top of the hour. Alrighty, people. I am Captain Tommy Scoville, and we are on the lifeboat. We go live on the 5s. That's every 12 hours. 5 o'clock at night and 5 o'clock at a.m., all on Pacific Standard Time. All right? So I will see you all in the morning at 5 a.m. Between now and then, I want you to reach out and try to save somebody. All right? And I'm Captain Tommy, and that's a cat in the basket. Good night, everybody. We love you. Thanks, Squirrel. You did great. Squirrel nut zipper.